Bueno. What's up, everybody? This is the South Star Classroom. I am your co-host, Omar Yanad. They got with us the real doctor, man, the Dr. Charles Cold, the third in the house. What up, Doc? How you feeling today, man?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself, boss?
We're doing all right, man. See, Jubilee ain't with us, so we're going to skip right through all of the check-ins
There
and
we
start
go.
getting into
Yeah,
the
we
meat and
skipping it.
potato
We skipping
of the
it because they
show.
not here yet. So we're gonna skip that thing.
That's what
The
happens,
penalty for
man.
not
That's what
being here.
happens when you don't
Yeah,
show up on time, ladies and gentlemen. The things that you
yeah,
want to have happen don't happen when you
right.
ain't in on
There's
time.
no
So we're gonna
check-in.
jump right into the topic.
We
That
don't know
was the
how none of y'all
check-in.
doing this
You
week.
good? You good? Where's the dog? That's it.
I know is the dog
Bam.
gonna be staunch looking out the window. I need the dog to be on top. The dog got us. The dog got us. Where my the dog ain't came through yet.
Where my
Not yet.
dog's
Not
at?
yet.
Not yet. We'll see. We'll see.
Where my bonbons at? Everybody, we got a hell of a show. David, thank you for joining us. We're gonna just jump right into this, ladies and gentlemen. So I am taking up the reins today. The title of the show is From Affirmative Action to Affirming Religion. And that is a good ass title brought to you by our man, Dr. Charles Cole. And I wanted to talk today about the Supreme Court, a court case coming out of Oklahoma, and what that means. The original idea for this show was must separate the church and the state. But for our audience who doesn't necessarily understand what that means, we had to come up with a better title. So, what are we talking about today? Here are the basics, ladies and gentlemen. Oklahoma. Once again, Oklahoma. We love the superintendent or the secretary of education out of Oklahoma, the commissioner of education who wants to make sure that the Bible is predicated in every classroom. He and a charter school in Oklahoma are wanting to allow for federal funding to be allowed for religious public charter schools. But the claim from Oklahoma is saying that, hey, as a public school, we have the right to teach the curriculum that we wish to teach. And what we want to teach is Christian curriculum to our children. Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, goes against the exact tenets of church and state as delegated by our founding fathers. And y'all, if you read some of the works from Thomas Jefferson, from John Adams, from Thomas Paine, who wrote the incredible book Common Sense, which wound up laying the foundation, not just for the Federalist Papers, but really the Constitution as well. They were vehemently against the idea of any kind of integration of religion into the politics because they wanted to clearly separate that entire component from England. The Church of England went a long way to start imposing themselves into the laws and policies of the land, and our founding fathers wanted nothing to do with that. Well, Oklahoma wants something to do with that. So, what are the quick facts, ladies and gentlemen? Quick facts are Oklahoma. There is a St. Isidore of Seville Catholic virtual school, which wants to become the nation's first taxpayer funded religious charter school, ladies and gentlemen. What is going on is that one of our Supreme Court justices, Amy Coney Barrett, a Trump appointee, she's actually friends with the founder of this school, Nicole Stell Garrett, who's a law professor at the University of Notre Dame. They go back to their time when they were both law clerks in the 1990s, when they were both working in the Supreme Court. Now, Nicole helped start this charter school in Tulsa, in Oklahoma, and was working specifically for the Diocese of Tulsa on this charter application. And ultimately, what is going on is that Amy Cohen Barrett, who would be considered a conservative judge. So let me just do a quick Supreme Court 101 for y'all. 9 justices on the Supreme Court. Just in case, ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court is part of the judicial system. There are 3 branches of government: the executive, those that are set to execute on the laws. That is the president, their cabinet, and whatever agency falls within the presidency. The legislative, which is your House of Representatives and the Senate, they are to create the laws, including the appropriation of money, by the way. That is a constitutionally legislative task. But let us not forget, because in the headlines right now, Right now, you got Trump being like, we got one judge who's stopping my efforts. I'm like, no shit. That is the judicial branch, ladies and gentlemen. The judicial branch of the United States government is set to ensure that we follow the Constitution and that we follow all the laws and that we do not allow tyranny in this country. It means we do not allow things like a governor or a president to start upturning things on a whim. We follow the law. The Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, is made up of 9 justices. And one of my favorite trivia questions to anybody who is such a constitutional, fervent human being, someone who's like, I am for the Constitution, I am for this country, whether they be left or right, is name me all 9 justices if you are such a constitutional advocate. So let's do that really quick. We have a majority conservative court right now. Means is that these justices feel that they want to go with a strict constructionalist viewpoint of the law. What does that mean in our 101? That means that they must abide by the words of our founding fathers strictly. What would they want back in 1789? You have the more liberal constructionists on the left side of our Supreme Court. Those are 3 individuals on that side. What they believe is not what were the exact words of our founding fathers, but if our founding fathers were alive today in 2025, how would they apply what they felt were the root beliefs of the United States in today's law? You have 3 women on that side. You've got Justice Jackson, you've got Justice Kagan, and you've got Justice Sotomayor. On the conservative side, and gentlemen, I'm sure you can recite this verbatim. You've got Gorsuch, Alito, Clarence Thomas, beer drinking Kavanaugh, and who we're talking about today, Amy Coney Barrett. 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I'm missing 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm missing one. Of course, Chief Justice Roberts. 6 conservatives, 3 liberals. Chief Justice Roberts. Now, recently,
Thanks, Ruth.
Roberts.
Thanks, Ruth. Thank you for that, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Continue. I'm sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, hell yeah, man. Because Ruth Bader Ginsburg did not step down. We got a conservative judge in her wake.
She spit at Obama's feet, said patooey. No
she
such
did,
thing.
indeed.
Hillary's gonna win. I'm gonna be fine.
Her legacy as one of the most predominant women on the Supreme Court and really creating the equity of gender has now sadly tainted with a conservative judge drowning that shit. So that's the makeup of the Supreme Court. It's a 6-3. What is going on with this case? So the Supreme Court is going to hear literally in 2025 the case of church and state. Should a publicly funded school be given federal funds to run their very religious, publicly funded charter school? Now, the reason it made news is because Amy Coney Barrett, because she's friends, but I've got some speculation here, because she's friends with the young lady who started this charter school here, is recusing herself.
Did they go to Notre Dame together or something? Aren't they like?
They did. They were law clerks together. She's now a law professor at Notre Dame. I'm trying to remember if they were actually at Notre Dame at the same time, but they got ties to Notre Dame, both of them, which super Catholic, right?
Yeah,
super Catholic.
Around the corner. Yes,
indeed, man, indeed. By the way, I think she is the first Amy Coney Barrett from Notre Dame. Like the overwhelming majority of Supreme Court justices came from Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, your like usual crop of Ivy Leagues. So she has recused herself, which means that, ladies and gentlemen, in order to gain a majority vote, clearly, if there's 9 members, 5 members vote one way, 4 members vote the other way. If it is a really like divisive court, right? Recently, Amy Coney Barrett voted, I would arguably say, against her fellow conservative judges when it came to Trump, his ability to be on the ballot and the election. Recusing herself would mean that there are only 8 justices left. Now, that is a tie. Traditionally, Justice Roberts, who's on the conservative side, despite the fact that he is conservative, has really ruled against any kind of divisive constitutional situation. So the thinking is, it's 5 I got my numbers wrong. 5-3. 3 liberals, 5 conservatives. Got Justice Roberts. If Justice Roberts jumps ship onto the liberal side, that's a 4-4. That is a tie. What happens in a tie? That means that whatever the appellate court's decision was goes back to the last court, and the last court said this is unconstitutional. So this is a big uproar about, well, what is Amy Cohen Barrett doing? But really, today's discussion, ladies and gentlemen, falls squarely on the political implications of allowing religious organizations to operate publicly funded charter schools when the separation of church and state is going on. So that is the groundwork for today. Now we can get into the opinion. I just want, as always, quick hot takes on the subject of anything inclusive of the Supreme Court. Amy Cohen Barrett, just your quick thoughts on this whole thing from Oklahoma. Now that we got Jubilee, I know that you joined us a bit later. Would you like a moment to gather your thoughts? But I always allow ladies first. But in this case, it's ladies' choice because it's ladies' night. Oh, what a night.
I'm listening, but hey, y'all, hey.
Did it intentionally happen that side is red and we got like black and dark gray on? I don't know.
Yeah.
The red festive Christmas colored people are over there dancing and stuff. We just are.
Let's switch that up. Yeah, man, that Parker family just got.
Are you telling
up
on us, Nicole? Nicole has caused herself telling on us, Omar.
They didn't do check-ins, Nicole. Thank you for holding me down.
I got here late. I was not part of that.
You were.
Yeah.
That's why you were part of it, David. Hey, we ain't got no time for that late stuff.
For the listening audience that can't watch the videos, because 2 of our partners were late, we skipped the thing that Jubilee likes to do, kind of forces us all to do at gunpoint every week, which is this like cheesy check-in. When it's adults that got business to get to. You know what I mean?
Nicole, I appreciate you. Okay, thank you for letting me know because I assume that.
You know what, Nicole should have let you know to be on time. Can we get that first response out, y'all?
Yeah, hey, really quickly, while you guys are thinking about that first response, I really loved this comment from Nicole, which is my first thinking, which is fire. Put it up on the banner, man. Well, non-Christian religious, yeah, exactly. So what's going to happen when the Muslim school wants this? What happens when the Jewish school wants this? What happens when the satanic church?
When the church is satanic, Satanism wants it.
They want, baby. The satanic church wants you to believe in Beelzebub.
See, this is one of those hard topics because I feel like we all gonna land on the same thing. So let me get I'll clear the deck because me needing to produce and play devil's advocate is gonna be very tough on this one because I truly I think this is wrong. And it's wrong for a bunch of reasons. It's wrong because of what this country was founded on and what people were escaping. And I say this as a Baptist Christian, not the best one, but I believe I'm a firm believer. I think people should be able to praise and pray and serve who they want or not serve. That's up to them. I think this is a huge breach of the Constitution. And I think there's a reason why it was in place. Again, when they left that other place to come here, that other place was in turmoil. It was in disarray. It was overrun by church power overreach and taxes and craziness. Now that taxes part, we can have some conversations about today, but my quick take is I think it's unconstitutional. Now, a private institution, just go private. You don't need the charter. You don't need the federal dollar. Like you don't need the state and federal dollars. Like go private and you can do what you want. Find a way to get vouchers or financial assistance so everybody can attend it as if it's a traditional public or a charter public charter school. But as it stands, no. It is a huge breach of the Constitution in my eyes. So that's my thought. Let me just clear the deck and get out the way.
David, what you got for us, babe?
Okay.
Come on,
so I've been thinking a little bit. So we did a show on this a couple of maybe like a year ago. You remember we talked specifically about this?
Yeah, on Oklahoma
charter school. Yep. And so now it's at the Supreme Court. I think the actual like legal term that Nicole was referring to is called viewpoint neutrality. So you could have a situation where they do open the door to fund religious-based charter schools, but they would have to also adopt the principle of viewpoint neutrality. You couldn't just say Christian schools, right? So there's that. And I'm not playing devil's advocate here, but I've done a little bit of thinking on this subject. I think my second point is I don't like the way that this has kind of come up and where it's come from. So I think that I'm trying to like remove the bias that I've got nothing against Oklahoma, but you know, the state superintendent, you know, we've seen his rhetoric. And so it kind of like pollutes my thinking on the matter, but thinking about it like strictly in terms of like the Constitution, or at least like entertaining the conversation, it would have been I think I would have felt very differently about it if a like quote unquote rainbow coalition of, you know, 10 world religions came up with this concept to present it, you know, across a number of states. So you have, you know, a bunch of different types of religious-based schools coming forward trying to access public money. There's tons of examples of public money going to private and religious institutions. So we got to call that what it is, right? But, you know, I'm curious to hear your thoughts as we go on.
I mean, I think Jesus would have wanted us to separate church and state. I think I was looking for the scripture where the good old Sadducees were like, hey, we have issues with Caesar. Some people are saying to give stuff to Caesar or pay Caesar, and some people are saying,
give unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yeah. And it's just like, no, render unto Caesar what's Caesar and give to God what's God. So I think just on that premise, and because of, you know, what our Constitution supports, yeah, let's keep it separate. And it has me also thinking about not just like, is it a religious, you know, school, but like all of the stakeholders connected to the school, are they religious too? So like, then that means the principal has to be Catholic, and all the kids have to be Catholic, and all the teachers have to be Catholic and believe in order to teach at this school. That doesn't really sound fair or equitable, or even, I'm not saying possible, because I know that, you know, religious sectors have schools, but save that stuff for the church, save that for your religious schools, save it for your, you know, for your synagogue, save it for your mosque, save it. Like, it doesn't need to be, you know, merged. And then also, I thought we found a really neat way to address this, right? Like making sure that the schools were not religious, but if you had these core values that you thought just were, you know, they just needed to be laid as foundation, then you identify them as core values that are universal, right? Like, do you find like a group of people that's like, no, we hate honesty, we don't like it? Like, no, you believe in integrity and honesty and perseverance and resilience and, you know, ingenuity and taking initiative and all these things. Compassion, you have it as a core value. And so I don't think this is hard to do. I think, and I'm wondering, like, what exactly is the MO behind trying to use these public dollars?
I do.
So you get free. Go ahead.
Money.
If I can build a school with your money as opposed to our money.
This is another interesting point. So Charles, you brought up the founding of the, you know, United States of America.
And
I think it would be interesting
and all that stuff.
Yeah, it would be interesting to explore I think we'd probably get a split amongst the founding fathers on this idea. But you know, that was what 200, how many years ago? Almost 250, right?
Yeah, 1789 was the ratification of the Constitution. It's been a little while.
We are in a very different place as a country, and so another possibility to entertain is if you look at the volumes of migration that have happened from foreign countries into the U.S., many of those populations are coming, practicing religion much more deeply than the average American, right? Whether they come from Asia, they come from the Middle East, they come from India, they come from Latin America, they come from Africa, right? A much more, I don't know what the data suggests on this, but I'm going to go ahead and take a guess that immigrants coming to this country en masse probably practice religion more than the average American, right? not Catholicism, not Christianity, but other world religions. So is there an opportunity there to bridge a gap for people that are coming looking for schooling for their children to find schools that match their home religions, and their home cultures?
Yeah,
without having to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I get it. I think I think when it's a Supreme Court case, you got to always look beyond the case and look at what precedent is being set. And I think that just opens the floodgate. I actually think that could hurt the Establishment Clause that allows anybody to practice any type of religion that they want or not practice one at all. I think that in Oklahoma is again, let's
just for our audience, where is the Establishment Clause and what is it? Just real quick.
Yeah, the Establishment Clause is basically, and it combines with something also from like the First Amendment as well, but it's together, it's the constitutional right of freedom of religion. So the difference when it's a Catholic school or a Muslim school or a Baptist school is that it's private. You are opting into that. You're paying into it. So even at those schools, everybody that goes there is not Catholic, right? It just tends to usually everybody go to Notre Dame is not Catholic. Everybody goes to a Jesuit school is not a Jesuit, right? It just, it is what it is. So the reason that this puts that at risk, because once you open it here, it just, a lot of people, when you change a law, especially at the constitutional level, it sets a thing called precedent. So I can challenge things based on precedent moving forward. That's why.
What is precedent?
Precedent is that this has become the law of the land, and now I can challenge something based off of the stuff from this case, right? So now there would be a legal argument to be made if Satanists wanted to open a public school. Okay. Now I think that what starts to slip in, though, if you allow that in a public sphere like public education, then that means that you technically have a legal argument against any type of public edifice at all, right? So correct. Maybe it is now let's introduce it into city government. We're gonna utilize these religious practices in city government. We're Utah, we're a Mormon place. We're gonna actually outlaw the use of Christianity or Islam in our places because it is now, and we're gonna cite this. You know what I'm saying? And it just becomes a very, very murky. It becomes a murky area, which is why it's a part of the First Amendment. It's a part of the first thing. If you don't pay attention to nothing else, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, these are the big ones. These are why we left our people back in that other place. This is why we slaughtered all these people to have this new land. So I think sometimes we don't pay attention to that, to the unintended consequences. What I actually think are actually intended, especially because it's Oklahoma. I think that it's a really slippery slope, and we don't tend to learn from our mistakes here. So her recusing herself puts the Supreme Court in an interesting bind because, one, I don't think that she really wants it, to be honest with you.
Yep, that's exactly right. Right.
And she doesn't want to have to bear the brunt of casting that no. And she can also work behind the scenes with her fellow people to all she needs is one more. She got to get one more person, or they got to get one more person that's not feeling it, and then it goes back to the non-constitutional ruling. But that means that it'll come up again. So that was, I didn't mean to be long-winded, Omar, but I know you asked me to clarify.
Hey, man,
this is the same way that these school boards do their kind of behind-the-scenes dance and kind of orchestrate how votes are going to go down and who's going to recuse themselves, who's not. And wow, look, that just happened. So much of this stuff is already kind of set in stone before they even get into the voting booth.
Indeed. Well, I will say this, and I got to really understand the etymology of this term, because I know the etymology of this term, but I still don't like it, despite the fact that the etymology didn't mean this. But it actually means whipping the votes. Mm-hmm. So Civics 101, there is an actual individual in your house chambers called the whip. And the idea was you're going to go out there and start ensuring that you get the votes through fight or flight, one way or the other to get the people that you need to be on one side. That is called whipping the vote. And there's a literal person called the whip that is assigned that practice. And by the way, just 101 for our audience, because I just gave this advice to someone near and dear to my heart. You don't go to the meeting, the school board meeting, the legislative meeting, and think that you're going to change anyone's mind. You got to go lobby, what we call advocacy, right? You got to go advocate, meet these people beforehand, ask them out to coffee, talk with them, let them see your viewpoint of things, get together with some other members behind closed doors.
Show up to their houses with a mob.
Shit! People did do that. People did do that. Hey, people did that with Clarence Thomas when he was taking private jets and shit. They were like, "Yo, Thomas,
you know what a good example is to show people what a whip is. If you go back to House of Cards, Kevin Spacey, whips usually are people who are very seasoned. They have great relationships, and they do a lot of log rolling. They're the ones that kind of know where the bodies are buried. Sometimes that group of people have to meet with the president, and they'll, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of, hey, David, I know you love this. I really can't have you vote on this, but I owe you, that other thing I got. I'll put this in there and we'll do this. Like, there's a lot of negotiation that has to happen, right? Like, so when the Republicans had that very unfortunate and funny and hilarious catastrophe when they were trying to name the leader, and they had to do it over and over and over again. That person, the whip, failed at whipping and failed in a very, very public way, which is why you heard that person, get really kind of pulled over the rakes and coals and things like that. So it gets really technical. I have to get rid of this Russian bot, but y'all continue. I got this. I'll work this out.
And I would say this: whipping is a legislative function, meaning those that are creating policy should be whipping votes.
Right.
Now, I understand what Doc is saying, but the Supreme Court, the reason that we hold this court of nine to such ludicrous esteem is that there should be no whipping involved. There should be no justification on the right or left. It should be extreme neutrality. What is the law of the land? And this is why this situation is so interesting and somewhat controversial, because having Amy Coney Barrett recuse herself, and she says it's because it's her friend, very convenient. I would say that he doesn't want to be a part of breaking down church and state. And I got to tell you, like, girl, that's what you signed up for, to stand up for the Constitution, to do the hard work that this institution has asked you to do. And like, hey, look, man, I don't know if like Notre Dame law cut it or not. Probably not, because considering where like Supreme Court justices actually come from, but like there is a constitutional duty to uphold what we have created 250 years ago that you're conveniently sidelining. So that gets us into question number one, ladies and gentlemen. And Doc gave a really perfect inlay. What are the potential implications of allowing religious organizations to operate publicly funded charter schools on the separation of church and state? So, I mean, I could quickly jump this in, and I heard it from Doc really well. You got a lot of implications. It's not just the fact that like, okay, cool, we allow this Christian school to run their thing. Now the satanic schools can ask for their funding. At a publicly funded school, okay, cool. Now the public schools in certain areas of the country are going to be pretty fervent. It's going to be like, this is Arkansas, y'all. This is Christian country. Every public school in the state going to be Christian. So, hey, Muslim kids, Hindu kids, Islamic kids, satanic kids, Taoists, Buddhists, like you're going to be getting
and all of the made up religions that people do like every gag year. Like,
I mean, man, this is the United States, man. People make up all sorts of weird shit, man. We're in the cult of Trump right now. How there is literally religious fervor for this man. They believe he's the second coming of Jesus Christ. So there may be a worship of someone like Trump in specific areas of the country. But like Doc had it right What if this trickles into city council? What if this trickles into the state of Texas? Now all of a sudden, boom, the whole state's like, everything's Christian from now on.
If you want
city
this
council,
public, if you want this, this welfare, if you want this snap,
baby.
If you want this snap, then you need to be, you know, of X religion, or like, again, I know it seems preposterous. It seems like a reach, but this is the Supreme Court. This is the law of the land. Like this is where Plessy v. Ferguson had, like this is where like the shape of our country tends to be made, which is why it was such a huge deal when Ruth Bader Ginsburg would not step down.
Yeah. Can you take a step back really quick? What was Plessy versus Ferguson for our audience?
It just made you can be my slave. you can be a slave. You have no rights. You have no rights under this jurisdiction. We can challenge it. You are my
separate
property.
But equal. Separate but equal.
Separate but equal. And you know, and nobody has a clear definition of what that was. So it allowed for a lot of a new era to kind of come through. It is what allowed for things like Jim Crow later on. Like it is, these things are momentous. And I say this as a believer.
This is a big ass case, man. And like, I love my boy Alonzo coming in. Thank you. Like, can you imagine instead of going to study hall, there would be prayer hall? And by the way, the Bible allows for corporal punishment. By the way, corporal punishment, punishing kids physically, still legal.
Oh yeah, when I went to school in Kentucky, from the parent was absolutely alive and well in
permission from the parent to paddle a child or to physically abuse a child. As superintendent, I have every right to do so. Imagine the justification of that statewide according to religion. That's another big ass implication. But I'm going to take a step back. David, Jubilee, I want to give you guys a little bit of leg room here because I'm like just talking.
I've got a couple of quick things. The implications, I do think it's a slippery slope. Like I'm less concerned about, you know, like if this thing goes through, then it means like other religions, you know, will be able to follow suit. I'm less concerned about that, but I think Jubilee referred to it earlier. I'm thinking about how this opens up the door to discrimination, like based on like now it really muddles the line when you're hiring somebody, why you hired somebody, why you didn't hire somebody.
Oh, damn.
Around enrollment. Yeah. So like my family is, we follow Islam, but right across the street, there's a Catholic-based charter school, and we want to go to that school. You know, can my children still go there and practice their religion? Will they be bullied? Will they be harassed? Yeah, I mean, there's a whole world that opens up when I think of the Pandora's box here. But then the other, it's not really an implication, but I want to go back to like why. I don't actually think they're serious about this. I think they're just trying to, you know, throw some spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks. Because if you remember, the state superintendent of public education in Oklahoma has been touting that he's putting Bibles in all like middle and high school classrooms, right?
It was the 10 Commandments, I thought.
The Bible.
Oh, okay. Bible. I thought it was supposed to have every class was supposed to have the 10 Commandments posted or something like that.
Probably that too. No, that was in Louisiana, I think.
Okay, I know that was a thing.
Yeah. So, but here's the issue. Like
in Texas too.
So when you go to start a charter school, they look at your petition, they look at everything that goes into it, and they have to determine if you are like demonstrably likely to implement the program, right? If you go for a charter renewal for the next 5 years, are you demonstrably likely to implement the program? So my question is, coming from Oklahoma, which is like pretty much 49th out of 50 for educational outcomes, is the state of Oklahoma demonstrably likely to hold a public Catholic charter school accountable, right? Like only 1 out of 4 kids in Oklahoma's 4th grade classrooms are proficient in reading. 1 out of 4. You're starting with you're starting from a bad. I mean, this is not a knock on kids or teachers there, but like the system in Oklahoma is not serving kids. This is not where we should be getting our newest ideas for like culturally innovative charter schools.
Jude?
Yeah, the answer is no. It's just no. Maybe I can just go to the people. I can be the ninth person. I can be the ninth person, and I hope that I have enough people to vote with me, and I can just hold up a sign that says "Hell no." Like, what is your problem? I mean, this is not even like. First of all, let's just talk about how Christianity.
Kavanaugh's a sexual predator and a drunk. So I mean, so much.
I'm a Christian, right? By title. I do not consider myself to be religious. I consider myself to be a believer because I think religion is another form of bondage, right? It's a system, right, of beliefs that usually without the spirit of Christ, and I'll get a little preachy here, right? But without like the heart of God, right? Without the foundation of love, it's just a set of rules used to whip people into shape and all of that and get people to co-sign with this way of living, right? So it is the letter and the law and not the spirit, right? Because what example would these people even provide, right, to be role models for children? When we look across, right, look at the people that are in Congress right now in the Senate, look at the people running this country who all identify as, or not all, who many identify as being Christian, as being religious people, but they treat people like crap. They lie, steal. We have a felon in the freaking White House who identifies as a freaking Christian. Like, let's just keep it separated because you're just not winning. You're not winning on the political side, and you're definitely not winning on the religious side. And I think this is just melee. It's just a messy thing. We need to keep it separate. And public dollars are for all children. Public dollars. If you're talking about a school, you're talking about public dollars, then whatever you do with that money needs to be able to serve and provide services for all children from all walks of life. If you're not able to do that, then the answer is no. And that's it. Just hell no.
The potential implications, like I said, I hear you. I'm not the best Christian, but I am when I am a believer. But that's why, right? Like David is one of my favorite people in the Bible. Like David did a lot of things.
David, you were in the Bible?
He's my favorite.
Shit, David might be my favorite person in the Bible outside of Jesus. Right? But the reason he is one of my favorites is because of how flawed he was, and God does restore. This is not about to be like a religious thing here. I think the implication is just far more reaching than who these people are. I don't think it's in good faith. I don't think it's a good faith argument, like you said, David. I think they're throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, but I think that they're going for just it's power on top of power. And the best ways that I could, do that is by establishing my dominance. We have Kiana Warren runs a very successful charter network in Indiana. She's in Indiana, and she won those people, and those people chose her because she has an incredible set of schools that she runs and that she governs well, not by the rod. You know what I'm saying? Not by you attract with honey, not vinegar. It's already difficult enough being a choice person. It is already difficult enough to kind of try to clean and wash what charter represents to a lot of people in this country. And I have a problem with these people that are just ready to just kill all of that and make all of that stuff true. And I just can't, I don't want to allow that. And I don't want this to be the gateway. And again, I'm telling you, there is no way this does not, I don't think they care about the schools in that much. I think they do, but it opens up so much. So now you on Snap. I don't like you. I don't want you people having welfare. So guess what? What are you Christian? Have you pledged your, well, now that you're Christian, well, that means that you really can't buy none of this. If we come in your house and we see alcohol, you can't have this. If you run a school by the letter of Christianity and the law, the Lord says very clearly, there should be no other gods before me. So no, you will not be able to practice your other religion in this building, because that would make that we're here. Listen, again, not to go all into, I went to a lot of Sunday school and Bible study. All right. It won't work.
But it's an infringement, because forget about just being able to practice. If you're a Muslim kid or a Jewish kid and you're getting this highly conflicting message at kindergarten, first grade, second grade, very impressionable ages, and you're sitting there having to listen to this. There's a dog. Having to listen to this in first grade. Like, I don't want to listen to that shit in first grade. I don't. Or second grade, or third grade.
Well,
or
look, you can go to a Catholic school. There's a lot of people that are not Catholic because, again, some of the Catholic schools are some of the best schools in the country. There are like a lot of really good religious institutions, right? Which, again, if we talk about teacher tenure and all that stuff later on, we should bring that up, right? Like these people that are not certified that are doing better jobs at times. Like, again, it is a larger play. And you gotta understand when you're on the menu. When you're not really sure what you're buying, when you're kind of off, that means you're the thing that's on the menu, and it opens up a whole whirlwind of a lot of different things. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jude or David.
Yeah, no, I was just going back to something David said that made me think about, like, can the babies read? Like, schools are for learning, right? You can have Sunday school and Bible study and all those other things to teach the, religious stuff and the Bible or whatever it is. But like, can you just teach the babies to read? And so it's like, what even is the criteria for somebody being able to open a charter school, period? I know we have them, right? I know every organization or every state or every, right, has some kind of criteria. Like, what even makes you qualify?
Ain't that easy.
To just be religious. Like, can you teach kids to read, do math and arithmetic? Can you do that? And write? Can you do that? Like, so why are we even?
But only thing, Jude, and I'm glad you said that because we need something to push back with each other on, right? So thank you for saving the show. Only reason I probably wouldn't make that argument is because there is a lot of overwhelming data that just shows that a lot of like religious schools they just perform better, right? So I don't know if I would get into are they able to teach this? Are they able to teach that? Because they have 100 years of like, people are spending their last to send their kids to this religious institution, and they not that religion because they go to college, they score better, they do this, they do that. I don't think you even need to get into the mud with them like that. I think you keep it here. You keep it by saying we were built on this, and we were built on this for a reason. This allows a different type of tyranny that will start in schools, but it will spread outward in a lot of different ways. Do not play games with these people and cut into those grapes because the blade won't be fine enough. And this is dangerous on a lot of different levels. So what happens to the military? How do we do these things in the military now if that's the case? You know what I'm saying? So it's just so many things got to be open to interpretation. But that wasn't a real pushback. It was just a difference of the art.
All good.
The more that this conversation, and it's a national conversation now around,
which is crazy. Like
people are like revisiting how far can you stretch existing state charter school law, and this is an example of it, right? So it's like a rethinking of like how innovative can you be in this space. I don't think this is not innovation, right? This is not an innovative practice. I think also we go back to implications, Omar. I mean, there are implications for like the entire like national charter school landscape that is non-religion based, right? So you start to introduce this concept of a religious based charter school, and it's just, man, it's such a slippery slope for the whole charter landscape, right? And I don't know if like the National Association for Charter Schools or whatever they call it, the National Charter School Collaborative, or the states have opined on this matter, right? Like what do they think about it? Everybody's being kind of tight-lipped about it, but I think there would be significant implications for all of the existing school operators, single site, small CMOs, large CMOs, national CMOs. Maybe a good time to speak up on this issue.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah. Real quick, I just want to go back to one thing because I thought this was pretty good. Nicole made a comment, not a segue. The religion they're promoting is white supremacy, but they're using Christianity as a cover. Yeah, like Steve Bannon explicitly wrote that. Like Steve Bannon and Jeff Sessions, when they were in Trump's first cabinet. So if y'all remember Jeff Sessions, he looked like a character out of Wizard of Oz, like one of the Munchkin people. And he kind of talked like this. He kind of talked a little bit like Ross Perot. It's worse. He was like
Ross Perot. I forgot about
you remember Ross Perot, man? Yeah, that's a good throwback. We're going to build a wall. See, we're going to build a wall. But instead of building a wall, how about we build a Walmart at the border? That way, those people can stay out, but get the goods that they need and go right back home.
Ross Perot.
Ross Perot, man.
Yeah, he was. We should have all listened.
Bill Clinton winning, baby.
We should have paid more attention to him, man. When he came on the scene, we're going to be like, there's going to be more of these guys.
Oh, Lord.
And there was Jeff Sessions, and he and Steve Bannon were basically the ones who wrote this whole ideology for Trump, which has been a far right-wing policy since the Nixon era of, hey, man, we're going to use state rights to recreate segregation. We're going to use Christian nationalism as a way of essentially indoctrinating white supremacy. We're going to introduce religion, Christianity specifically, into public institutions to basically create mind corruption. And when she says not a segue, I'm going to make a quick segue. There is a lot of thought about, well, our founding fathers. I'm like, listen, man, our founding father fucking hated this. Let me tell you straight up from a
some did, not all. Some did.
No. I'm gonna push fucking bullshit.
They debated.
I read those debates.
You said most is not all, Omar. Most is not all.
I did not say all.
Political nerds are on the podcast show.
I'm not gonna say all, but I'm not gonna say some. Some bullshit political science shit. That's what we used to write in our political science books.
Welcome to Omar's weekly rant.
Arguably most, the overwhelming majority of people who signed the Constitution were vehemently against the integration of church and state. How do I know that? My buddy Richard would always be like, oh, you read that from the media. And I was like, no, motherfucker. When you went to college and partied and did shit and actually didn't read fucking anything, I fucking read. So for everyone out there who's like, did you get this from the media?
To our friends on national television that's watching this, I hope y'all were able to catch the censors.
This is where that sound comes in and goes, beep.
And it just bleeps out. It's like we got technical difficulties.
Hilarious.
So just real quick, man, check this out. Just one quick, I'll segue us to the next
I love
question.
that we got to one. What you mean? It's time for final thoughts. We got
time for final thoughts, man.
Questions. We still got 12 minutes. We got one more.
That's awesome. We got no time for more questions.
Go ahead.
Maybe it's a boy. We can do it fast.
But real quick, just to exemplify this, Thomas Paine again wrote Common Sense, one of the implicit foundations of why the United States is the country that it is. Expressly said, of all the systems of religion that were ever invented, there is no more derogatory to the Almighty, more unedifying to man, more repugnant to reason, and more contradictory to itself than this thing called Christianity.
Yeah.
Too absurd for belief, too impossible to convince, and too inconsistent for practice. It renders the heart torpid and pronounces only atheists or fanatics. This is straight up for wanting our founding fathers about Christianity itself, not even religion as a whole. So for those adamant people out in the world who think for a moment that our founding fathers were Christian, you are fucking wrong. Straight up.
Wrong. This is
I've read what they said. I have read their journals. I have read their documents. You haven't read shit. What you read is some fucked up thing on News Wars or wherever the fuck y'all get your bullshit fucking news from, because you haven't read the primary source. Primary source.
The big four: Washington, Jefferson, Madison. Adams was kind of. But the big four,
no, Adams in his letters was vehemently against
what I'm talking about is he always talked about the importance of religion. He was put like this: some of the founding fathers were very, very religious. Some of them were not. And so, for the reason why it is in the First Amendment, as I will say, is not as colorful way as my partner here did. That's why it was it had to be stuck in the first, because even the religious people, the very religious people still believed that there should be separation. That's why it was like the First Amendment needs to be protected, right? It's like, there are people that are willing to die. Like if you ever meet like those comedians, like I've met comedians like this, they could hate another comedian. They could hate what they say, but they will, like Lenny Bruce, like they will go and ruin their life for to protect that thing, right? And if you don't know who Lenny Bruce is, read up on a very, very tragic story,
I know who
right?
Lenny Bruce is. Yeah.
Right. Very, very tragic. I mean, he cursed like this one up here, right? So but it ruined Lenny Bruce's life, right? But the point is that there's a reason why people fight for these things, right? There's a reason, because once you start to impede on that, it opens up not just the religion piece, it opens up freedom of speech, it opens everything up in the First Amendment. It is such a Pandora's box that if you open it, I do not know if you'll be able to close it without some type of war, without some type of new revolution. Like I'm not trying to be like fear mongering. I'm really not.
I don't think it's hyperbole at all.
Right. I'm not trying to be that. It's just it's not only the religious piece, it's not only the school piece, it's what the religious right piece is nestled in as well. Once you jigger free one of those things, that's why freedom of speech people go so hard, because they know it opens up everything in that document.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry. It's just this should have been our political spinoff episode. I am sorry, Jubilee and David. And then you know what? By y'all coming in later, you allowed us to rev up. We were revved. It was the revving had happened.
Oh yeah.
If y'all would have done checking, y'all spirits would have calmed down.
No, it wouldn't have. That's a lie from the pits of hell.
Oh God, damn.
Not from the pits of hell.
Not from the furnace.
Hell. Beelzebub?
It came out the furnace.
Not
It is. Yes. No.
Not Mephistopheles.
But I think this is a good show, though. I think it was a fiery one. Listen, man, I think this is the time where I think there are very powerful people who are banking and depending on you not understanding the Constitution, who are not the Bill of Rights. And again, I'm somebody who likes to produce a good show. I like to make sure that the full argument is there, right? So there might be things that I really agree with, but I'm like, hey, we want to leave you all smarter in this. This one is a little rougher for me, because it is one of those things that you can't play with that on, because it is the foundation of our democracy. It is the bedrock of a democracy that is on its way to being in shambles. And that would help put it on the freeway, the expressway to that place. And there are places that have these things, and people risk their lives to leave those places and try to gain asylum and freedom and citizenship here. So it's not one. Listen, man, I might not give those people a lot of credit for a lot of things they do. I am a black man. There's a duality. There's a thing that I have to be a mature adult about, and not ethnocentric on, about the times and what it was. But I will say, as that black man, there was some things that they got right. And it is foundational, and it has allowed me to go from a kid who grew up in shelters and homeless and crack addicted parents and parents in jail to being who I am now, and that can build things for other people. Or people's parents who came over here with hopes and dreams, this goes against all of those things, whether it's Jubilee's Jamaican heritage or like the Mexican heritage of you, David, and Omar, everywhere you come from, brother. You got a big one. Like this thing unravels the experiment that is the United States, that has been one of the best experiments, even with all its flaws and all its problems. It has still been one of the best experiments of democracy that the world has seen. So no, I would say, is my final thought. You can't have that. Sorry.
Right.
I read a few of those books too.
I'll go next. So I think number one, I just looked up some statistics, and it's pretty crazy, man. If you go back to like 1990, 90% of U.S. adults identified as Christian. Mm-hmm. From 1990 to 2021, now we're at 63%. So the decline of Christianity, right? In 1972, 5% of U.S. adults identified as none, religiously unaffiliated. In 2021, 30%. So we're actually becoming a nation of a growing demographic of people that just don't practice any religion, with a significant decline in Christianity, where you have the other world religions hovering at about 1 to 2 to 3%, statistically insignificant. So I think that's something that we need to, take into consideration. And then this whole idea of like deploying the concept for a religious-based charter school in Oklahoma now has me thinking this is probably like a psyop, or like some kind of smoke and mirrors, double reverse game that they're playing, so they can just continue to build their support for public money going to vouchers, right? Okay, you didn't want the public religious charter school, then you got to support the vouchers. You got to support, us giving money directly to parents to spend it how they want, which I'm still not totally sold on, right? So
I think that's really astute. Jubilee?
I ain't got nothing.
Oh, I got an astute.
You're the beard of knowledge, man. Jubilee?
I don't have anything else to add. I think I love this show because it just heightens awareness. Like, I think all of this stuff can potentially happen like underneath our noses, and our world just pretty much rises and falls on these kinds of decisions, So I just appreciate, just us having this conversation and helping people to pay attention to this stuff and not just think, oh, it's just one little charter school. Like, what do we care? When to Charles' earlier point, it's like, well, no, it's about what this will disrupt. It's about the precedents that this will set, and how sticky our world would become if we allow this to happen. So those are my final thoughts. Great show.
Well said.
Can I add on to tack on something since you're closing out? Oh, I think the one thing I love what David said, and also is Oklahoma. What is the fastest growing religion in the world? I think also that needs to be, and it scares the hell out of Oklahoma and the rest of this country, right? Islam. Like, that's the other thing, right? So it's like, if you can do this, I can reestablish Christianity as like, yo, we got to get more Christians because atheism is on the rise. I thought you made those other points so good, David. I wanted to add that other tidbit in because I know
you're right. By 2050, the current percentage of practicing Muslims in this country is expected to double. So yeah, they're afraid.
Yeah. And I think they're afraid of Black people and brown people and anyone who's not a white Christian. Going back to Nicole's comment of like, I think she's right about the smoke and mirrors. This is about white Christian superiority and white Christian supremacy, and they are scared to death of a changing demographic in this nation. And I think the Supreme Court has an obligation to themselves to say, what is it that the founding fathers actually wanted? Because as John Adams was a highly religious guy, I mean, magnificently religious, and him and Jefferson debated endlessly about that.
Not everything.
He, one of the most religious cats in American history, still agreed that the separation of church and state was a fundamental tenet because they did not want to see religion like it was used in England, like it was used in Europe, as a conduit for corruption and dominant supremacy. And that is oftentimes what religion has been used historically, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, we live in a country that has had these rules for 250 years. But if you start looking into the rule for the last 2,000, 3,000 years, you will see that religion has been used as a catalyst for domination, for supremacy, to control people, to control ideologies, to control money. Yeah, the sheriff of Nottingham. Man, what do you think that man was taxing stuff on? That was the Crusades. That was Christianity. Taxes to raise the army, to fight the Muslims in Jerusalem. That is the history of that story of Robin Hood, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, we need to say, I love this show because putting attention to something like a Supreme Court decision that could have massive implications for not just school, but any government institution. Because like Doc said, like Jubilee said, you break down that wall and you allow public funding for this religious institution, what's going to stop every other governmental organization in each state wanting to do the same thing? but we're exactly at time. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our co-hosts, the Beard of Knowledge, David Castillo, the Queen Jubilee Ransom, and the real Dr. Charles Cole III, this is the South Star Classroom. We'll be back, same bat time, same bat channel next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things, leave comments. We love you. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.